Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Join us for another enriching podcast discussion on The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, featuring Cigar Constantine, the esteemed international best-selling author and speaker known for her transformative insights. Today, in this episode, we're going to dive into the profound concept of flowing through life without struggles. As we explore paths towards personal growth and empowerment, discover how embracing the flow of life can actually lead to a life filled with resilience, self-discovery, and mastery over challenges. Let's embark on this journey of self-awareness and inner strength with Cigar Constantine as we uncover the next steps towards a harmonious and fulfilling life of existence. Cigar, your work emphasizes on embracing the flow of life and transcending struggles to navigate change with ease. Can you share with our listeners what inspired you to explore this transformative concept and how individuals can begin to embody their mindset in their daily lives?
Well, to be honest, I was a control freak when I was younger. That inspired me because it was such hard work to be planning ahead all the time, to know exactly what you wanted to say. And if you didn't say the right thing, I would spend so much time evaluating and thinking it over just in case somebody would ask me the same question again. I knew exactly what to say, what to
Right.
do, and how to do it. So I really came from a place where I was struggling inside because I didn't feel this trust of life. And
Yeah.
I was working overtime to plan my life to be ahead. And I realized actually, a friend said to me, he said to me one day, he said, Saga, easy is right. And I was like, what do you mean? Easy is right. That sounds to me like giving up or just not taking responsibility. No, no, no. He said, just listen to me. Easy is right.
Yes.
And I got it. And I was like, I think I know what you're saying. Because easy is right is a balance where you go with the flow of life, where the universe is actually taking you, but you are still taking responsibility. Because sometimes people say to me when I say easy is right, they say, well, can I just jump on the couch and just, wait for people to find me if I want to be a speaker or wait for, somebody to reach out? No, 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 no. That is not easy is right. That is being lazy and not
Yeah.
taking responsibility. Easy is right is looking for the opportunities, the openings, taking responsibility, making sure to be at the right place at the right time, and having the skills and the ability to do the work when the opening is there. So,
Yes.
whenever I move forward in life, I look, is this easy? Is there an opening? Or am I starting to force it now? Am I starting to struggle or fight? And if I'm fighting to achieve something, I know it's not right. I know the timing is not right. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe it's just not now, really. So I pause and I just ask myself, do I need to take more responsibility to move forward, or am I beginning to fight here? And if I fight, I let it go because I know it's not right.
Yeah.
Nothing in the world is right if we have, a fight. We have to fight for it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't fight for women's right or, animals and stuff. It's not that. It's just when we do it, we need to look for the opening because if we lose ourselves in the fight, we become like the opponent. And then we
Mm.
have lost altogether, even though we win the fight. So we don't want to lose ourselves fighting. We want to stay true to ourselves and do what is right in the moment to move forward at the right speed. That is easy's right.
I like that. So it's not really putting something on the shelf and say, "Oh, you know what, this is not for me." It's maybe postponing this part of your life of what you're focusing on, putting it on the shelf, and then just going with the flow and see where it takes you. And then maybe you could take whatever it is off the shelf and incorporate it if it's the right time and it feels right for you.
Yeah, but also if there's something you want to achieve, let's say you have a goal. I'm not saying let go of the goal. You can have the goal, but you need to follow the steps towards the goal because the universe doesn't know time. We know
Yeah.
time as human beings, and we are always in a rush, but the universe doesn't have any timing. So what I want to achieve in a year could take a lifetime. But when you relax into that, that you're not in a hurry, it will come when the time is right. But you have to keep moving towards it. You have to take the responsibility every single day to move towards your goal. But you can't force it. You don't fight it, because then if you reach the goal and you have lost yourself on the way, what's the point of reaching the goal? I mean, you have lost already, and there will be no fulfillment or happiness around it. It will just be hollow. So,
Yeah.
when there's something we set out to do or achieve, it's just so important that we listen to the messages that we're getting from our bodies, from the people around us, from the universe. It's like, if you watch the water on top of a mountain, the water will run down the mountain and it will find its way. If there's a rock suddenly just where the water is running down, the water will run around it. It will find the easy way. But what
Yeah.
we do as human beings, we grab a hammer and we start to hit the rock because we want to go through it. We want to
Yeah.
definitely, I set out to go through it. I want to go this way. So, I'm forcing my way through the rock instead of stopping and saying, well, there's a rock on my way here.
Yeah.
What is the easy way? What does it tell me? Do I need to rest? Am I stressed out? Am I just going to step back and look for the greater picture? What is happening? Is somebody here trying to help me and I'm not even listening? Or am I overhearing the signals from my body? What is happening here? So we're so focused and so busy that we forget to listen to what is happening inside and outside around us. So when the water goes down the mountain, it just goes with easy is right all the time.
Oh, I like that. Now, when you listen to yourself, there was a study done where the mind, the heart, and the gut all have the same components, and they're all made of the same composition, and they all are considered parts of our brain, but they're different components. When you are listening to the universe and you're going by what you think is the best way, and you're going with the flow. Do you listen to your inner instincts? Is it your heart that you listen to? Are you look and thinking in a more realistic, and you're using your brain and trying to analyze it? Or are you just kind of leaving it up to the universe and looking for signs and ways to really, see where the universe is guiding you? Or do you do all of them?
I was going to say I'm doing all of it because all of it is important. It's important that you listen to your instinct, but you cannot only listen to your instinct because your instinct is made up your history, your culture, your upbringing. That is what your instinct is made of. So if you listen only to your instinct, that's no good because that's too colorized in one way. That will lead you in one direction. What
Right.
I do is I observe. I observe my instinct. I observe my bodily reaction. I observe what the universe is trying to tell me. I observe the struggle ahead of me. And I'm asking myself, is this worth it? Am I true to myself if I keep going? Or am I losing myself? Is this too much? Am I, does it feel balanced or doesn't it feel balanced? Many years ago, I wrote a book, and I wanted to share it with the world. And I decided to give away 15,000 copies, which is quite a lot of books to hand out by yourself. And I wanted to come from Denmark, where I live, to the United States. And I didn't know how to bring all these books from Denmark all the way to the US. And I was like, this is kind of a crazy plan. But, I ordered all these books. They were delivered to my home address and I kind of found a place to store them. And I was like, now I have to get them to the US. This was before, Amazon and you could just order them there. So I was like, okay, I have to go with these is right because now I have all these books and I need to get them to the States. And, you know, I kind of asked the universe, I need some help here. I need to find an opening. And
Yeah.
I was leading a course, and one of the people attending the course, she said to me, because I told people about it, I said, I have this challenge. And she said, a friend of mine got this shipping company. Let me call him and ask him if you want to do a session with them, he can ship your books to the US. And I was like, let's try it out.
Yeah.
So I got a deal and I got all the books to the US now. I had to get there myself. And a friend said to me, well, I know somebody you can stay with. So all I had to do was to pay the flight to go to the US. And then, we went on the streets of Los Angeles, and nobody actually wanted the book because there was three Scientology houses where we were standing, on the strip, and everybody thought, well, they're just Scientology. We don't want that free book. So if
Yeah.
I kept standing there saying, you got to have this book, I have 15,000 book, take it, I would be fighting. And instead of fighting, I was like, okay, where should we go? And a person came up to me and said, you should go to San Francisco. They love books up there. So we got in the van, we drove up to San Francisco. I put all the boxes out on the street, I opened them up, and people, they just came to pick the books up, by themselves. And it was just going with the flow. So whenever, there's an obstacle, I always stop and I observe it and say, is this right? Is this what I'm going to do now? Or do I have to wait? And there's always, when the time is right, there's an opening. Another time with the same book, years later, I wanted it published in the state. And a friend of mine, he's publishing in the US, and I wanted to work with him. And I asked him 10 years ago, and he was like, no, 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 I'm too busy. I can't work with you. And when I completed the translation of this book, I was like, I'm done. Now I need somebody who can help me get it out in the US.
Yes.
And the next night, I was reading the Danish newspaper, and there was an article with this man saying that he was so successful in the US that now he had time to work with new authors. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I wrote him, and we've been working together for a few years. So, when you kind of look for the opening and you don't fight, it's always there. And if it's not there, it's good to just sit back, not do anything, and just observe. You don't have to rush forward all the time. You take responsibility and you look for the openings and you prepare yourself. And when the opening is there, you move forward. Until the opening is there, you keep looking. Okay, maybe I'm not looking in the right place. Maybe I have to learn something before I can move forward. Maybe I'm so focused on one direction that I'm missing the other opportunities. There's
Yeah.
always a way forward, always. And when it's easy, it's right.
Oh, I love that. Now, your latest book, Be Your Own Rock, has been praised for offering readers practical tools to navigate their life transitions with resilience and grace. How can individuals use these tools to let go of the struggles and embrace the unknown with confidence and clarity?
So many of the tools in Be Your Own Rock are very easy to learn, but I think most importantly, the book has such great potential in order to give people the insights to stop struggling, because a lot of the struggles is actually to do with the mind, how our mind is running off with us and creating feelings and emotions that trap us in doing things that we might not want to do, or overthinking, racing thoughts. And in Be Your Own Rock, there is both the scientific explanation of why are we actually doing this, but there's also the hands-on what to do if you have these issues, if you have this challenge, if you find it hard to listen to yourself, find it hard to follow your intuition, find it hard to stop all these thoughts so you can actually feel what you are feeling and not just, running off with what you think is right. So
Right.
from getting to know your personality type, which is really important because that is how you act out in the world, that is how you communicate, that's how you deal with challenges, but also finding your core values, understanding your survival mechanisms, understand how unconscious fear plays a huge role in our decision making and the way we act. And also, for example, if you set a goal, if you have fears, unconscious fear, then you might not move forward, because if you have unconscious fear, you will make up all kinds of reasons for not doing what you really want to do.
What do you think about how do you feel that people should really focus on trying to, because when you have unconscious fear, sometimes you don't even realize it. It could be something that happened from your childhood, something traumatic in your lifetime, and it just causes you to get stuck in life. Something can trigger you and you don't even know why it's triggering you. Someone can say something and all of a sudden it pulls you back. Are there any suggestions that you feel that you've seen success when people are being held back and they're not being able to move forward because of these subconscious fears? How do you go about trying to overcome subconscious fears? You know that you're fearful, you know that something's triggering it, but you don't know the root cause.
Yeah, well, the thing is with the brain, fear is created in the brain. Fear is not really real. We create it in the brain. And the amazing thing I find looking into the brain is that we all carry the same fears. The fear of not being good enough, the fear of being left out, the fear of being made a fool of, the fear of succeeding. Really, that is an interesting one, the fear of success. And we all have these basic fears. So when you actually stop and realize it is fear that is holding me back, you can try to address these 5 or 6 different kinds of fear. That is the root cause for holding us back. And you can see if you can recognize any of them and fall through the layers and make this unconscious fear conscious, because when you become aware of it, you can deal with it. If you
Yeah,
don't see what is holding you back, you can't do anything about it. It will just hold you back. And
right.
the opposite of fear is trust. So what I learned many, many years ago when I like to control my life was that letting go of control means rising, raising, and lifting up your trust. So when you let go of control, you need to add more trust, because when you begin to trust yourself, trust your ability to deal with the fear, trust that whatever you find, if you look inside, you have survived already. So
Yeah,
it won't kill you. It's not dangerous because you're here. So
yeah,
so the fear, the unconscious fear is holding us back, making us do things that will prevent us from actually achieving what we're longing to achieve, whether it's love, it's success, it's acknowledgement, whatever it is, friends, relationships. The fear is holding you back from moving forward. And when you go with the easiest ride, easy could also be, well, I need to look at this fear. Might not be easy to look at the fear, but I need to look at the fear. And now I'm listening to this podcast or reading this book. It becomes easier to look at the fear. So I'm not saying that things have to be easy, but take the easy steps to solve it, to look at it, to deal with it. Don't just say, well, I have to deal with everything that's happening inside of me within a year and I have to do therapy twice a week. That's not easy for me. That'd be too much. You have to give yourself the time. So it's easy and it's interesting and it's fun to do the work instead
yeah.
of rushing it and fighting.
I like that because I think a lot of times we put too much pressure on ourselves. And if we go with the flow and we just take things a little bit less, and we don't plan so much, like we have to do it this way and this has to happen and I want this to happen by this time. If we go with the flow and we have goals, it seems like it's a much less stressful procedure. And it actually could help you, it seems like, with your clarity and your focus and being able to really increase your resilience and your trust and just your strength within, that inner power that we have. It seems like it triggers all those positive aspects about us within.
Yeah. And I think the easiest right, it's my mantra. I use it a lot. I use it all the time. Whenever something happens in my life, I just ask myself, is easy right here? So,
Yeah.
you can do it some years ago, I went to New York with a friend and she really had everything planned. I didn't at that time. I was more, just letting go and having a good time. And that didn't matter where we wanted to go. She was just looking into the map. That was back at a time we had a map, and she was
Uh-huh.
focusing on that map. And she said, like, we're going right now, we're going left, we're going left. And I was like, could we just let go of the map and see where the universe takes us, And she's like, no, no, we'll get lost in New York. I said, we will not get lost. It's like, it's so straightforward with these roads. We cannot get lost here. We can always grab a cab back to the hotel. And, she
Exactly.
put the map away and we ended up in this amazing local, it's not a pub, like a bar. And we had the best time with the locals there. And it was unreal. And she was like, thank you for asking me to put the map away and be present, because the thing is also we forget to be present. We are in the past and we are in the future. We're not right here. So when you go with easy's right, you are addressing the moment, addressing what is happening right here, right now, not what I'm planning 10 years ahead of now. No, no, no. Right now, what are the most important steps to do? What do I have the ability to do? What is possible? How can I support myself? How can I move forward? Because there will always be obstacles in our lives. I've been in a situation where I didn't have any money to pay my rent. And, I still went with Easy's Right, and it all worked out. It all
Yes.
worked out. And I learned so much from it. So it doesn't mean that life should just be easy. No, no, no. It means, how are you dealing with the situations where you are struggling? Are you dealing with it with consciousness? So you look at what is easy in order to solve this issue, in order to solve this obstacle. I deal it with an easy way. I look for the openings instead of fighting.
No, I love that. I love that. Now, the testimonials from the readers highlight the profound impact of your work that it had on their personal and professional growth. Could you share a specific anecdote or lesson from your own book that really encapsulates the essence of navigating life's challenges with a sense of purpose and inner strength?
Well, I guess, with the title Beyond Rock, that is what it's all about. Being, true to yourself, standing firm. And when you are your own rock, you set boundaries and you feel that, you're true to yourself instead of all the time being out in the world trying to figure out how to be and how are other people, and can I say no now or should I say yes, or who am I? Because a lot of young people also struggle with their identity. Who am
Yes.
I and what should I do with my life? How will I become a success? And when you read and lean into being your own rock, you are more in peace with yourself and you're more
Yeah.
true to yourself. You become more authentic. And I think, one reader shared with me how she was struggling because her son had moved to a different state. And she was really upset with her son. And she said, after reading the book, I can be with it and I can enjoy the time we spend together instead of focusing on being upset that he actually moved away, and what I think is too far away. So it's also learning to shift your focus and put your energy where it flowers and where it brings you joy instead of focusing on what brings you down and what you cannot change, because there's so many things in life we cannot change, and if we keep addressing what we cannot change, we lose. There was an incident here in Denmark many years ago, and I'm sure in the US people can relate to this with incidents that you've seen within the last couple of years. But there was an incident. There was two young guys. They were in a parking space. They were racing around with a big car, and the police arrived. And they tried to stop these two guys racing around in the car, and they wouldn't stop. And they were racing straight towards these two policemen and was going to actually run them over. So they fire a shot, warning shot, telling them to stop, and they didn't. They just came straight towards these policemen. And one of the policemen, he fires a shot, and accidentally he kills one of the young men, which is absolutely a tragic. And he was freed, from he wasn't sentenced with this shot because he actually acted out of self-defense, and they warned him and everything. But the father of this young man, he was so upset that for 12 years he fought to have this judgment redone, and the policeman actually got back to trial, and he lost. And but for those 12 years where he fought and he fought and he fought, he lost contact to his other son. He was also divorced and he got really depressed. So fighting, you know, because he was, of course, he was devastated. He lost his son, but there was nothing to do about it. We,
Yeah.
it happened. Nothing could bring him back. But he was so identified with this fight for what he believed
Mhm.
justice. And, he just lost everything because he didn't go with the flow, which is
Yes.
really tough. And I can, of course, I can identify with his fight being a parent, but
Yes.
still we have to stop before we lose ourselves. And sometimes things are not fair, but
Yes.
if we cannot change it, don't fight it because you're going to lose yourself and it's not worth it. Then we have definitely lost for sure.
100%. Now, as a keynote speaker and an expert in the personal development, you offer talks and courses that empower audiences to embrace a change and overcome obstacles. How can the concept of flowing through life without struggles guide individuals towards growth, learning, and self-discovery in your presentations?
Well, with my presentations, it's very important for me that people get some hands-on tools like we're talking about now, being present and stopping and observing. And in my talks, I always emphasize people with stories and also tools. So we can actually begin to take the first steps towards higher awareness, because it's the awareness. It's like, light in the darkness. It's the
Yeah.
awareness that gives us choice. So when we get that choice of freedom, we can say, well, I will continue fighting, or I'll do something better. So,
Yes.
from all my speaking events, what I focus on is actually giving people the tools to move forward in the best conscious way. So we get choices and we're not stuck in our beliefs or in our emotions or in our behavior. So we get this freedom of choice and ability to see what is actually happening inside of us. So that is, my main focus in all my talks and all my my lessons.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's so important, I feel, that people need to really, let go of trying to be in control. There's so many people out there that feel like there's a need, they have to be in control. And I always, said to myself, and I said to many others, that nobody has control over our lives. They want to think they do. But when push comes to shove, we don't have control over our lives. The universe has control over our lives. And, you really, no matter how much you try, if it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. And, people, they try to control things, but we live in a world that we're powerless, but yet we can live a journey that has an abundance of fulfillment, but we don't have control. We can't control what goes on around us.
No. Control is an illusion. It really is. And what we can do is be present and embrace whatever is happening with ease and stand firm as a rock. So if I stand firm as a rock and I'm present, I can deal with anything because I'm
Yeah.
true to myself and I'm here. But if I try to control, I lose myself and
Yeah.
then I won't deal with the situation in the best way because I'll be in my mind, I'll be in my emotions, I'll be in, all my survival instincts. But if I'm here and I'm present, it's much easier to go with the flow and raise the life quality instead of lowering the life quality. And with control, it really takes us further and further away from ourselves, away from our emotions, so we don't feel our emotions. And many people today, take a lot of different drugs to just numb their emotions, which is
Yeah.
so sad because we need our emotions to support us in whatever we're doing. Our emotions are the inner driver for motivation and happiness. So if we don't feel what is happening inside, we lose a very important part of our inner compass. So I
Yes.
think, with control, the more we can let go of it, the more fulfilled we will be as human beings and the more present we can also be.
Oh, I agree. I think that's when happiness and joy sets in, is when we let go of the control. I
Yeah.
definitely.
And we're just here. We're just here. You don't have to predict anything. You don't have to assume anything. I'm just here, ready to see what life offers me. And of course, I'll take the steps in the direction I want to go. But if it's not going to happen, what can I do? Something
Exactly.
else will happen, and I'll be happy and thrilled and make the most of it. So
Right.
I can't control it, but I can make the most of what is coming my way.
Exactly, exactly. Now, many individuals find it challenging to release struggles and welcome change into their lives. What advice would you give the listeners who are currently facing obstacles and seeking to take the next step towards harmonious and fulfilling existence?
Well, with struggle, I would definitely look at why are you struggling? Is it because you're setting out goals that are not realistic? Is it because you have um, your goal connected with emotions that are out of balance? Because beneath all our thoughts are our emotions. So if we don't deal with the emotions, we won't know really how we're pushing our thoughts, and our thoughts are pushing our behavior. So when we're struggling, it's really to do with the intelligence of emotions, and I would definitely look that way to begin to become friends with my emotions instead of enemies with my emotions. So all struggle come from within and comes from a separation of yourself with the surroundings. And instead of blaming the outside and blaming others, I would definitely look inside and say, well, what is going inside of me? What is
Yes.
my part in this? And then you have a choice. Do you want to continue dealing with the situation? Or do you want to go and do something else where there's an opening, where there's positive people, where you are happy? Let's say you have a job, you're not happy. So instead of struggling and fighting and becoming really negative, well, why not begin to look for a different job and see if there's an opening? But if we just keep going where the fight is, nothing will change, and we will become more and more separated.
Oh, very, very well said. Yes, 100%. Now, your book has been described as a guide and light for those navigating through life's transitions and challenges. Can you share any specific tools or practices individuals can adopt to their cultivative resilience and be able to have a sense of strength in their own journey towards personal growth?
Well, I think one very simple tool that I find important to learn is that whenever something is happening, we often just react straight away. So something is happening and we just react. And what you can do, you can start to practice to pause, take a deep breath, reflect, look inside, what is going on inside of me, and then zoom out and see, okay, this is happening inside of me. What is happening over in you? So if you pause, reflect, and zoom out, then within a few seconds, you are able to deal with the situation the absolutely best way. And you gain a choice of freedom, because instead of just doing as you always do, you can pause, reflect, and zoom out. And you can say, will I continue or will I do something better? So we need to do, again, easy is right. We need to begin with small steps and becoming aware of pause, reflect, zoom out, breathe, look inside, and look at the situation. Then we can begin to make a conscious choice. But if we complicate things too much when we begin our personal journey, or at least we want to change things,
Yeah.
we're not going to do it because the brain is too lazy. So we have to have this, I call it a buffer zone, where we just have this zone of checking in and reflecting. And
Yes.
if we learn to do that, that is a great step towards becoming more aware and letting go of struggle. Because a lot of the times we struggle because we don't feel ourselves, or we don't understand what is happening inside the other person. We think it's got something to do with us, but it's their issue. It's got nothing to do with me. So, we
Right.
can separate and say, well, that's that. You deal with yours, I'll deal with mine. And
Right.
yeah. So pause, reflect, zoom out. I think it's a really powerful but very simple way to begin this journey. And if you already work with personal development, it's still a powerful tool because we can all use it. I use it all the time.
Yeah, I've used it many times. I use it all the time actually. And it helps me reevaluate very quickly the situation, and it stops me from either doing something that I'm going to regret, say something I'm going to regret, and think about how can I make this situation better. Even if it's not me and it might be the person that has the issue. All right, if I respond this way, I know the person's going to react this way. So I shouldn't respond this way. I should take a deep breath and think about what's the best, response, or what's the best action to take. And then very quickly it will pop in my head, and then I will do it. And then it ends up being in a better situation where, and sometimes just walking away silently too. Sometimes instead of just like bolting out and saying things that you're going to regret, and causing situations to get worse, sometimes excusing yourself from the situation and just maybe being honest with your emotions. Right now, I'm feeling a little, upset. I just need to take a time out. If you excuse me, I'm going to just walk away, and then just walk away from the situation.
Exactly, exactly. And what I also tell people, for example, if I gave you some feedback or you gave me some feedback, a lot of people they begin to discuss it. Or if you said to me, well, Saka, you could do this and this and this, and I'll say, well, Stacy, you could also do this and this, and it begins, a conversation instead of just saying thank you. And we sometimes forget because thank you is also the easy way to receive feedback.
That's
And
right.
it's not a discussion. I don't have to push something back at you. Or if you tell me, oh, could you clean up the kitchen? Well, you never clean up the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's like I just pause, reflect, and zoom out, and I can smile at you and say, sure. You know,
Yeah,
and a lot of time we also come up with these comments. And I always say to people, before you comment on anything, ask yourself what you're about to say. Will that actually lift the other person and bring energy towards them? Or will that put them down? Because
mm,
you want to position yourself. And if that's the case, then shut up, you know, you, because only put out what is actually good for you and other people. The rest you deal with yourself. So in that way, we can also try to be the best version of ourselves. And as you say, it's much better when we pause, reflect, and zoom out, and we don't push back to people. We just say, well, give me a moment. I just have to deal with whatever's happening inside of me, or just simply thank you for putting this to my attention. Thank you. And people
right.
are so surprised when you just say thank you. It's like, oh, you're not going to get back at me? Nope. Thank you.
The first time I've heard that, and actually that's an excellent idea, just to say thank you. You've accepted their suggestion, you accepted what they had to say. You're not fighting back, you're not causing confrontation, you're not causing, the debate, that could start, when you start to, respond. You're just saying thank you very much. And
Mm.
then you just leave it as that. And then you probably shock the hell out of the other person. But you know what? It's gonna actually work for your own benefit.
It is, and also for the other person, and then you just ask yourself, is this feedback something I can benefit from? Is it okay? And if there's anything I can learn from the feedback, I'll take it. If I can feel this is just a projection of your, unbalance, then I'm just gonna let it go. That's it. But I'm just responding with thank you. And I'm looking people in the eyes and saying thank you. And then that's it. And it really is powerful. It's so powerful.
I love that. I love that. Now, what are some final words of encouragement or wisdom that you'd like to offer to our listeners who are looking to embrace the flow of life and overcome struggles?
Well, when I began my journey, I thought I was going to die. And I thought the mountain was so high I couldn't climb it. It was bigger than Mount Everest. But it's not. And there's, when you take the first steps, you also realize that we will never be done. There's always work to do. But
Yes.
it's like, an old record, like a vinyl record. You begin on the outside and you move closer and closer to the middle and becomes easier and easier. So the
Yes.
first, the first couple of months, years. They might seem really hard when you're doing personal development, but it becomes easier. And it shouldn't be a struggle. It should be easy. And there's so much help to find, so many good books to read, so many great podcasts to listen to. So talk to other people, be inspired, but do the work. Nobody can do the work but you. So if we all want to improve our life quality and want the most out of this life, I think this is the most important work that we can actually do for our own sake, for our children's sakes, and also for the people that are around us. So take the small steps and look for the opening. For example, if you grab Beyond Rock, you don't have to read it from one end to the other. Just go
Right.
through it and ask yourself, what would be easy for me to jump into? Which chapter? You don't have to start with number one and end up with 38. Well, if you
Right.
want to read chapter 25 and that's the opening that talks to you, that's where you go. And that's what is easy. So really watch for the steps that are easy to get started. That's the most important thing.
That's great advice because a lot of times people will start from square one and then they'll, and then they go across because that's the way we've been trained since
Yeah.
we were little kids, since we went to school. Everything has been, situated, order, structure, and it doesn't always have to be like that. We could just
No.
go with the flow and whatever draws our attention, whatever draws us in, there's a purpose for that. Why is it drawing us in? There's a reason for that. And we should just, like you said, start to let go, start to trust, start to go with the flow and let go of any type of control and just really go with what our inner instincts, our gut feeling, our heart, our brain, the universe, what that's telling us to do, because that usually 99.99999% is the way it's really supposed to be done. I think, if we had to like close this and we had to really point out some really important aspects of the conversation, what are some of the things you really like to emphasize to the listeners today that you really like to have them remember and really take away?
Well, for me, the most important is easy is right. Because that mantra, if you begin to live by easy is right and really take it in and understand the power of easy is right, you will let go of struggling, you will let go of fighting, and you will open up your life and your energy to the universe and be present. So easy is right. It's really so more powerful than it sounds. It's a way of living and understand the flow of life.
I love that. Now, can you tell everybody before we go all the different services that you offer and how people can contact you?
Well, I'll try. You can always find me on Instagram and Facebook, saga constantine.author, and also with Beyond Rock. It's available in bookstores in America. It's available on Amazon and other ebook platforms, and it's also available as an audiobook. If you want to listen to me and bring me in the car or on your walk or whatever, you can listen to the book on YouTube, and with you, of course, this podcast and the other episodes that we did together. It's available. So and people, of course, LinkedIn, you can find me there if you want a professional connection. And my newsletter, you can sign up for that on my webpage, sagaconstantine.com, and also find the other books there that are written, three novels as well. So if you're not into a non-fiction book, you can grab a fiction book and be inspired as well. I just had an email from a guy yesterday, and he said that he never ever reads any fiction, but he was so grabbed by these books on the edge of his seat, and he finished them all three in, I think, in a few weeks. And I was like, oh, that's
Wow.
amazing. So
Yeah.
so with these three books, The Life, The Ring, and The Hope, I put in a lot of self-discovery and personal development, but in a great story. So if you want to be entertained and not just, have all the tools, you can go
Yeah.
and look at those books as well.
Oh, wow. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Saga, for being on the show today. I really love when you come on the show. You have such great insight. your wisdom, the knowledge that you bring to the table, and just how you look at things. You really give good insight on how people could actually take very simple steps and just incorporate them in their lives and have such huge impacts, and positive change in their lives just by tweaking a few things here and there and doing things differently and really thinking about how to react and behave in different manners and just use different tactics and strategies, can make such a big difference. And they're not difficult, they're easy, but yet they're so powerful. And I thank you so much. This has been an amazing podcast, and I thank you so much for taking the time to share all this great information. This has been wonderful. I love this topic. I love it to death.
Thank you so much, Stacey. It's been a great honor to be with you, and thank you so much for having this podcast and making this available to people to listen to.
Oh, you're so welcome. You have a great day.
Thank you.